Hey everyone, welcome to the Human Cloud Podcast, the spot where leaders come to drive the freelance economy forward. So today we have Jay Dolwani. Jay is the founder of The Starters. The Starters is a brand new marketing freelance network built off this crazy premise of will clients pay a membership rather than the typical staffing or marketplace fees or markup. So there was a couple things that I just, number one, we love meeting sort of the up and coming crop of entrepreneurs in this space and watching people and learning from people that are starting net new. Because Jay came as a prior VP at a bunch of very, very, very successful logos, impressive logos. Bird was one of them. He was let me just look quick. He was the CMO prior to this. He was a consultant at Deloitte. So, he's someone that could be making a lot of money if he was at other places. But so there's a couple things that I want you to be listening for. The first is I want you to hear his experience of the traditional talent models being broken. It's going to be very similar to yours and definitely to mine. The second thing is I want you to listen to why traditional marketplaces weren't working for him. The third is how he replicated himself. So there's a trend in Jay that we see with very successful platform leaders. And that is they don't come into this space totally cold saying, I need to find new customers and I have this great idea. They generally come saying, I needed this myself. I have an arm's length relationship to the first couple of customers and they replicate themselves. That is totally true with Jay. And the last is, I want you to hear how he thinks about funding and where his business will be in 1 to 3 years. Specifically, he also is aligned with the trend of leaders prioritizing profitability and good clients rather than venture funding. So enjoy Jay, and most importantly, go drive some change. All right, Jay, thank you so much for hopping on, bud. Whereabouts are you?
I'm based out of Los Angeles, California.
I love it. So I got to say, your background, is that real or Zoom?
It is real. Unfortunately, my walls are a little bit wider than I would like. I would like to have some artwork or something on there, but it's a real background. I just have no decorations up here. I'm up here on a loft of a townhouse. So this is my workspace.
I almost want to say prove it and just wait until someone's walking, to actually prove it.
You actually might see my dog climb up the stairs at some point during this pod. She likes to come up every once in a while. So that'll be real.
That's incredible. Well, mine is mounting on food. So if you hear all the crunches, I'm not throwing rocks. It's him. He's kind of a turd. He waits until I record and then he's like, all right, I'm in.
Time for me to eat. As possible. Yeah.
But listen, Jay. So let me give you context, and there's an intro that goes out in the beginning of this. But for we told you before. So got three type of listeners listen to this. The first is you enterprise leaders hiring freelancers at scale, and so you're constantly looking for what is the most innovative solution to scale my freelance workforce. The second is leaders like yourself in the industry, and the third is the solopreneurs, entrepreneurs themselves. But so, like I mentioned, I've been following you for 6+ months now and just watching the progress, watching the updates. And what I'm so excited to hear from you is, number one, why someone like yourself would get into this space. You could easily be at Microsoft or Google or you name the company making way more money. Also, our industry generally isn't the sexiest venture backed in terms of we don't have that many big wins. So the space, you got to really love it. Second thing, though, is you're approaching this in such a unique way. So I just got off of a call and I had mentioned, I said, hey, I'm meeting with Jay. And the person goes, so there's like a membership involved? And I'm like, don't worry, we're going to get it. We're going to go down that rabbit hole with you. And so I'll give you my read from the outside is that, okay, everyone knows about freelance now. 78% of spend generally is marketing related, but on these large marketplaces, it's really tough to actually drive successful marketing outcomes. And unless you have the right person or the right setup, you're going to waste a lot of money. And so here you come as someone who has experience actually driving marketing outcomes, realizes that a traditional marketplace setup might not be the best for successful outcomes at scale. And so you say, screw it, I'm going to create a new model. That's my full read on you. I just gave you all of it, but now, over to you, man.
Yeah, not bad. I like that overview. I'll have you do my intros from here on out. But yeah, it's an interesting space. And I mean, if you told me a few years ago that I'd be getting into freelance talent, I would have told you you're crazy. But ultimately, what it came down to was passion for a problem that I wanted to solve. So a couple of things in terms of my background. I've spent my career hopping through different fields, starting in healthcare technology, doing these massive tech transformations as a part of Deloitte Consulting. I then moved on to high growth tech startups for the scooter company when it was growing in the earliest of days, got that experience, and then found my way into e-commerce after I was recruited by a VC firm to join one of their portfolio companies. And this e-commerce brand was called Wink. They were a direct-to-consumer wine business that absolutely exploded in terms of demand and popularity during COVID. And I eventually worked my way up to be their chief marketing officer. I hired dozens and dozens of people. We were venture backed. We were growing. We even went public. And in what seems like the snap of a finger, everything started to come crashing down. We started running out of cash. The markets turned around. Our stock dropped by 90% in just 3 months, completely eliminating our ability to raise additional capital. Our inventory line of credit suddenly vanished, and we were in an incredibly difficult position. And I found myself having to go through multiple rounds of layoffs, laying off all of the people that I had hired myself over the last couple of years. And in that moment, I recognized how unsustainably we had built that business. Everything that we needed to do, we just hired a new person for it. We didn't test, we didn't validate, we didn't actually ask ourselves, is a full-time role actually needed for this? And is this thing that we're hiring for actually part of our long-term strategy? It was this zero interest rate policy era where money was free and we essentially spent it like absolute madmen. And it was that really turned me to look at fractional labor and look at that market and see how it could be an asset to how we ran our business. So we went through all these rounds of layoffs, and I went to say, okay, I don't want to go hiring and laying off more people, but we have stuff we need to get done. So let me go to hire freelancers. I already knew from past experiences that I wasn't going to go to Upwork or Fiverr or any of those mass marketplaces for the simple reason that great talent is there, but it's also really hard to sort through the noise and find those people. There's a lot of spam, fake reviews, bots, etc. Now they built incredible businesses, and big kudos to them. But for me as an operator, it wasn't the right fit. So I went to a staffing agency that essentially was incredibly popular in the market and e-commerce space that said that they would match me with the perfect marketer for my needs. So I started working with them, and this marketer was charging $150 an hour. And I thought that was expensive, but I'm like, if they're good, I'll pay for it. Over time, I slowly realized they were not the best, and they were fairly junior. And I asked them, like, you charge a lot of money. How do you command this rate if you don't know these simple things? And they looked at me so surprised. So for what I was paying $150 an hour to the staffing agency for, that marketer was making $60. So that staffing agency was taking $90 an hour in markups and commissions. That's 150% markup on top of the freelancer's rate. And so that was my big aha moment of there needs to be a place where you can find trusted, vetted freelance talent that's not going to waste your time and that's actually good without paying crazy markups, commissions, and fees. So that's really where the starters was born out of. One, my passion for fractional work as a result of hiring and having to lay off dozens of people. And two, me as an operator hiring in the freelance market, trying to find what I was looking for and just running into a bunch of issues. So the way that the starters platform works is, since we're niched down enough, we're focused in the e-commerce space. I've managed e-commerce businesses in the past. I know how to find and vet the right people, the right type of talent. We can pre-vet the talent, put them on a platform similar to Upwork that's accessible, and where a brand that's hiring from the platform can see everyone, browse through profiles, but still curated enough to where you're maybe getting a dozen results for your search and not tens of thousands of results. And allow brands to contact and hire directly without any commissions, markups, fees, etc. And the way that we're able to do that is by operating on that membership model that you brought up. So we charge brands a monthly membership fee to access the platform. They can hire as many people as they want, as flexibly as they want, part-time, full-time, without any commissions, markups, placement fees, or buyout fees on our end. So we are a little bit unique. There aren't very many players in the space that operate like this. But my hypothesis is that if you niche down enough, you can take a platform-based approach. If your platform is curated, pre-vetted, and essentially make the process a lot more streamlined and efficient, not only internally, you can then pass those savings on to your customers, and those customers can essentially find and select themselves who they want to hire.
This is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So let me just go to playback. I mean, the experience of having to lay off. So I'll be honest with you, I have not had to sit on the other end of it. I've sat on the other end of acquisitions gone wrong and that, but it's just painful. Like the only close thing I can say was when I was in college, I did this like workforce training grant actually when I was freelancing, ironically, for one of my freelance clients. And I remember thinking, I was like, if I don't get this money for them, these 15 workers are gone. And they were immigrants. And so it was manufacturing, they were immigrant workers. And it slapped me in the face, right? It was like, hey, I thought that if I get good grades, I'll be fine. And here I am. I don't know, 15 people's life was on the line, right? Or their livelihood was coming down to some freelance intern who is going to generate a grant. And so that's crazy, right? So we've all had in this space, we've all had that kind of slap in the face of, wow, traditional work can be really broken and we got to find a different way. Now, I really want to dig into why didn't you just say, hey, I'm going to start a marketplace? Or why didn't you just say, I'm going to have a marketing agency? How'd you get to the place of let's have a platform-based membership type business model?
Yeah, I mean, it essentially came down to what I didn't want to do. So I didn't want to go too broad on this big marketplace because the problems with that are you can't control the quality of talent, and especially at scale and over the long term. And marketplaces with all the people already exist. Upwork is there, Fiverr is there. You don't really need a lot of other of these broad marketplaces. There are winners in the space, and those network effects are really hard to recreate. I didn't want to start a marketing agency because you run into similar problems where, agencies as a business model, of course, they can be fantastic for brands, but as a business model, they make their money on marking up rates of freelancers to brands. Like agencies hire employees and freelancers, mark up their rates, and then sell them as a package to brands. Tons of them already exist. And who knows, I might start a specialized agency in the future, but I had identified this very specific need in the market that I needed. And the way that I was able to solve my problem was by going on LinkedIn, getting a Sales Navigator account, finding people who had worked at the best e-commerce brands, DMing them myself, interviewing them, and then having them work for me on a part-time basis. And these are people who are at full-time jobs because the best people tend to have jobs, like they're doing something. And I wouldn't have gotten them if I hadn't reached out to them. Like they're not actively freelancing. So I had this very specific need of I wanted the best. The best had jobs. How can I get them to work for me part-time? And the starters model is the only way where we can make that happen, attract the best talent, keep their profiles private. They're not publicly available, only to our members, attract the best talent that way, but also give brands and people that are hiring a new option of how they can hire that literally does not exist. And so it was a process of elimination of like, okay, for this hiring need, this type of business exists. For that hiring need, this type of business exists. But what if you just want great freelancers that are affordable? It's really hard to find because every option out there, you either have a trade-off on quality with your mass marketplaces, or you have a trade-off on cost with staffing agencies. And so it's a process of elimination that got me to this needs to be the model that works. And of course, the model is not without its downsides, right? Like try acquiring a customer for a platform where you can't show them the platform before you acquire them. That's a big problem that we're solving for. Another thing is like people hire and then they're done, right? Like we don't get to retain brands forever. It's not like a traditional software where once it's ingrained in your business, you use it forever. So there's certainly downsides to the business model. But what I've found is that the flexibility that we give the best freelancers and the flexibility we give brands far outweighs those downsides, because by doing something that's community friendly, we've developed this incredible word of mouth and referral funnel to where we don't really have to pay for marketing to acquire on either side of that equation. It's literally these brands and freelancers are having such a great experience that they are referring us to no end. And so I got there by process of elimination. It certainly has its downsides, but it has its upsides, and those upsides have far outweighed the downsides so far.
Let's so I'm totally messing with you right now, Jay. I was gonna say, hey, let's talk about community for the next no, just kidding.
Not again, not again.
So so let's get super tactical about what does success look like you for the next year to 3 years? And the reason I'm asking you this is because I think it's going to be one of those questions that leads to the next three. And specifically, I think one of the things that the economy as a whole and our industry as a whole has had a reckoning with is what does success look like and what are you choosing not to do? And so what I mean by that is if you go venture, then you're choosing not to have a sustainable business model. If you don't go venture, then you're choosing not to sort of leapfrog if you think you need to pump the cash. And so, and there is others. There are some others in marketing that are just pumping SEO, SEM, paid ads, and I don't think they're in any way profitable. But so there are others that are just pumping that. But so for you as the CEO, founder, the one driving this business, what is really important to you over the next 1 to 3 years, and what are you giving up because of that?
Yeah. So, as a part of my experiences at Bird and at Wink, they were both tech VC backed businesses. And when you're backed by VCs that are expecting 1,000, 10,000x outcome, you're going to be forced to make decisions that essentially get you to that outcome or failure a lot quicker than you would have otherwise. But the problem with that is that the chances of failure go up significantly. So in both businesses, we made these hyper growth decisions that didn't end up working out because of external investor pressure. And what is very important for me as I've started this business over the last year, completely bootstrapped, and as I think about this business to the future, is not being beholden to any investors for this type of business. One, because I don't want to and I'm scarred from it. But two, because I actually don't believe that a marketplace based freelance business model needs VC capital. It's just not that capital intensive. Like the technology available to make a marketplace is an absolute commodity. I built the first iteration of our platform for $4,000. Like it is a commodity. Anyone can build it. We do not have a technology advantage. We never will. And so then you have to think about, okay, what is the actual product? Well, it's the talent. And so what's important to me is continuing to develop a reputation of being the go-to spot in e-com, whether you're talent, a hiring manager, or both, to come to for anything hiring and freelance related. And so it's going to be continue to make inroads within the e-commerce community, continue to showcase the thought leadership authority, put out pieces of content like our freelancer compensation guide that show that we're the go-to place for anything e-com freelance related. So that's goal number one. And the way that I want to accomplish that is continuing to do it bootstrapped. But internally, the biggest change that we're going to make over the coming years that's been different over the last year is that this last year I built this entire business just by myself, right? Myself and a freelancer here and there for some help that I needed. But full time in the business has just been me. And we finally grown large enough and develop and generate enough cash flow to where not only can I continue to invest in technology and the platform via freelance work, in marketing to grow the business if we need to, but I can also start investing in hiring some excellent full-time employees to grow this business past just me. And what I'm giving up by not taking venture capital is hiring incredibly slowly, right? Like if the business takes a turn and decreases by 50%, I don't want to have to do layoffs. So being incredibly conservative in terms of how I hire and what roles I'm hiring for. We're hiring for 2 roles right now, a community lead and a growth product manager, and that's probably it for the rest of the year. I think we can 5x this business with just those 2 roles. So that's what I'm focused on right now. And this year is really going to be thinking about taking the business past just me to an actual organization and team. I don't see ourselves expanding in terms of scope of roles, in terms of niche, none of that. There's so much to be won within e-commerce and within freelance, and that's where we're going to be.
I love it. So I'm going to do a little bit of a rocket round with you, and
Yeah.
we're going to do it now because I think it's going to also frame the next segment, which is going to be around the clients.
Yep.
And I also want to call it too, like I was early at Gigster, and I'll never forget what happens when Andreessen pumps 20 behind you, and just the pressures and the priorities, and it's just, I think that ship has sailed just in terms of, and in our space, I don't think that ship was ever there, to be honest, but I think that ship has sailed. But so let's So I'm going to ask you some really quick questions with quick answers and sort of gut
Yeah.
pulses. And it's going to be mostly around kind of what you've learned around the clients. And
Yeah.
so, would you say it's been easier than expected or harder than expected to get clients?
Harder.
Harder. Okay. Easier or harder to convert clients?
Harder at first, but now easier. We can dive into that, but we developed a quiz funnel that's taken conversion through the roof in terms of like actually from when somebody lands on our website to actually converting. So conversion is easier. Now I'm just trying to figure out the awareness piece and how to spread the word about the starters.
I love it. Okay. Now, related to conversion, easier or harder to retain clients?
Harder. It's our number one problem.
Really? And what is the source of that lack of retention, do you think?
My stupid membership business model, of course. I mean,
I
I say
love
that
it.
I completely joke, but I knew this was a problem coming into it. So the way that the platform works today is once you hire what you need, there's no requirement to continue a membership. You literally just use the platform while you are hiring. And the reason for that is because I wanted to launch this business and do it quickly. And so we didn't have payments infrastructure. We didn't have contracting through the platform. We didn't have messaging through the platform. And so it was the speed to market. Now that we've been around for a year and we've generated a ton of cash flow and we have good product market fit, we're reinvesting into building out all of those areas of our business. So now where somebody hires somebody, they're going to be paying them through the platform and be required to keep that membership to the extent in which they're engaged with somebody through the platform itself. And that's the way the business should work. But
Yep.
I chose to launch this business quickly so I can iterate quickly, listen to client feedback, and knowing so, doing a kind of half-baked business model where we didn't really solve for the retention side. So it was a no problem coming into it. But every client that cancels their membership is still so blown away by their experience that one, most of them come back when they have their next hire. Sometimes it's like a week later, they'll cancel their membership and they'll come back a week later for their next hire. And then a day later, they cancel their membership again, but they're referring us like no other. So it's a business model flaw, but we're working on plugging that in. I don't know when this is going to come out, but that flaw will be plugged in the next month or so.
So I just want to make sure I call this out, Jay. So this is where we got the entrepreneurs / like bullshit entrepreneurs, and so that's usually one of the gut checks is if they say nothing bad, then okay, they're probably full of it, right? Like it's like when you see, not to get too down, but it's like when you see like the founder updates and you're like, oh, like people went to the website, like, oh, okay, you had subscribers, like
Yeah.
that's cute, but I mean, come on. But so, okay, next one, because I think this is going to be related as well. So, did you think it was going to be easier or harder to educate the clients? Meaning, and I think what I'm really asking is, did they already know what they wanted and hired for it? Or did it require education for them to, number one, understand freelance, number two, or actually, I just skipped a couple questions, but so let's go with that one of easier or harder for the education piece of the clients.
It's easier for me, but it's easier than I thought. But here's why. And it's a little bit of a nuanced answer. Not because they know what they want and they're right. A lot of the time they think they know what they want. So they go on, they try to look for people, they hire people. But what they think they want is different from what they actually want or what they actually need. And so I am spending a lot of time now for all customers that be on board, reaching out to them, hopping on a call, walking through their business needs, adding them to my Slack channel so that I have direct access to them to help them and kind of work through what they actually need, even if they already think they know what they want. And I'll give you a couple of examples of where they go wrong. For example, first time founder, they're looking for a Facebook media buyer, right? Like ultimately they're looking for somebody to improve the performance of their Facebook ads. But what they actually need is not a new media buyer. They need a better creative strategist. They need somebody who's better at concepting and creating ads for them, not actually changing the way that they're doing their media buying. That's example number one. Another example that I'll give is too often a new client will want somebody from some big hotshot company that's been there, done it before, scaled to millions and millions in revenue. But what they actually need is somebody who is familiar with their stage of a company. And these big company marketers need these expensive SaaS products. They're used to having support systems and editors and designers and copywriters. Whereas now they come in and this founder hires them, that founder now needs to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on other things just to support that one person. And so that's another example of like, no, hey, you don't need the marketer from Nike. You need the marketer from some no-name company that scaled them from 0 to 5 million with no other resources. And so that's another thing that I like to work through with our founders.
That is super cool. Now, so we kind of opened up the can of worms that I'm a little bit scared to ask, I'm not going to lie. And this is why I'm scared, okay? So I have made my career 10 plus years in the freelance economy, and the term has been good enough. Now, is it a perfect term? Absolutely not. Is it better than gig? I think so. Is it better than on-demand talent? I also think so. So the industry, we say freelance. Now, our book is titled The Human Cloud because to us, we were looking at it from a lens of tech has enabled humans to operate in a better way to work. But if I say, hey, do you want to buy the human cloud? They think we're building software, right? And the reality is, no, we're facilitating humans to work together.
Yep.
So we're kind of caught in the bind as an industry where we have a term that kind of people understand. It's obviously geographically dependent. So when I was on the phone with Singapore this morning, okay, still some problems. And if you go to Indonesia, massive problems in saying, okay, here's a freelancer. But so we're in this spot that I would say freelance is good enough. I make my money on freelance, so I'm incented to care more about that word.
Yep.
But what would someone like you, how are you defining this space?
Well, we brand them. And so everyone in our platform are called starters because our platform is called The Starters. So that's how we're defining it. But I actually, that's like a big company strategic thing that I've not started thinking about. And I probably use a lot of words interchangeably based on who I am talking to. For example, if I'm trying to recruit our rock star talent, I'm like, we're not a freelancer platform. We have the best consultants and strategic advisors on our platform is what I'll tell them. But if I'm working with, an individual contributor, I'll be like, yeah, we're a freelancer platform. Similarly on the brand side, based on what they're looking to hire, right? So consultant, advisor, freelancer, starter for people who are more acquainted with what we do. I use them interchangeably. I probably shouldn't. But I kind of tailor it based on who I'm talking to and what exactly they're looking for. Because ultimately, we want to be the talent hub, like the talent destination. Whether you need somebody for a consulting call, a one-off project, an ongoing freelance monthly retainer, or hire them full-time, like we want to be the place that you go to. And I want everybody on our platform to be recognized as being better, which is why we call them starters, because we've interviewed them, we've taken them through assessments. But it's ultimately a talent hub. And I think, freelancers could be, or contractors or gig workers could be thought of as one segment of that talent hub, of that talent platform. And perhaps which word you use kind of has a connotation around seniority. But ultimately, I think within e-commerce, we can be the space for all of the things. So long answer to your question is I haven't thought about it. I probably should at some point, but I haven't.
No, you did answer it. So, and the answer is consistent across what we've seen. You say what the client wants.
Yeah.
Now,
it's
right?
It's the ex-consultant in me.
Exactly. Now, the tough part about that, though, is as an industry, when we ask the question, what's our ICP, right? What's our primary, secondary, and tertiary personas? It's different for everyone. And the reality is we don't really know. And so we're really good at word of mouth. We're really good when we get on a stage. But when it comes to driving sort of that spark and driving through outbound, it's really tough. And so, not to like at Human Cloud, one of the things we look for is we work with founders who already have domain expertise generally. Because if you're coming in saying, hey, I want to build a freelance marketplace platform network, the answer is, well, you yourself are going to have the customers initially, and you're going to replicate yourself. So when I look at starters, Jay, my quick reaction is, well, Jay replicated himself and he's enabling companies to work like Jay, not like the 5% of people that are okay with the traditional. So so your answer actually was right on the nose in terms of you tell clients what they want. Now, what do the individuals want? Because this is what's fascinating to me. Are these individuals 100% on the starters? Are they part-time starters? Are they full-time? Are they full-time freelancers, part-time freelancers? What about the talent side?
Yeah, so I would say it's about 50-50. Half of the people on our platform have other full-time jobs, and they're doing this on the side because their employment agreements allow them to, and it's a hobby for them. It's a passion for them. They want to continuously improve in their field of expertise, work with other brands, learn new things. The other half are full-time freelancers. And some of them get a full-time freeload through us. We've had several people that have asked to be removed from the platform because they no longer have bandwidth because we have filled them up way quicker than expected, which is a good problem for us to have. But for the most part, we are a segment of the work that they get. And so I tell freelancers that about 50% of our talent pool each month will get a project through us on average, right? But that demand sometimes could be concentrated in certain areas over others. So I never tell somebody to fully rely on us for a full stream of work, but we'll give them a project every couple of months. For some people, it's every month. For some people, it's every week. Some people are really popular. But our split is about 50-50. And I think our unique advantage is the ability to bring on the 50% that already has a full-time job, because they're not advertising that they're freelancing anywhere else. And they probably wouldn't freelance anywhere else because it's not worth their time. It's not worth their time to get clients. It's not worth their time to get 50% of their pay docked in commissions. But it is worth their time through us because they set up a profile. We send them leads that are qualified, vetted, because those brands have literally paid to talk to them. They're very high intent. And that's really a huge competitive advantage for us.
It's a very interesting, and it's funny actually. I remember you saying that about 6+ months now about the best talent isn't looking, and it's pretty spot on. I mean, no one's hiring a CEO who's been looking for 6+ months, right? It's always someone that friend of a friend or word of mouth referral, and someone who's seen success. And so the value prop of, hey, I can get someone that is very successful. Most likely, they're not the thought leader on LinkedIn every day, right? That's one of the toughest parts is the people that look good in a freelance capacity. Generally, you got to be like you and know how to vet them. So I wonder, what do typical projects look like? And very selfishly, I would like you to talk to the listeners who are looking to hire freelance talent. Very selfishly, Jay, please we have 1,900 listeners per episode. Please get 15% of them, 50% of them to convert to hiring a starter. But what are the projects? What do the projects usually look like?
Yeah. So of course, there's some variation based on the brands it's hiring, but it's typically one of three things. The first type of project is, hey, I'm a brand. I have like this really quick need for this campaign. I need to find someone like immediately, and I need this turned around in a week. That's project number one. We're great for that because we can literally get you connected with multiple people in minutes, hours, definitely within a day, right? You just go on, you figure out who you want, you reach out to them, you get introduced, you hire them. I've literally had hires done, both freelance and full-time, within hours of starting the search. That's one, like really urgent need to get this done, one-time need. Bucket number two is ongoing freelance work. And that bucket is, hey, I'm a brand, I'm scaling up. I think I need another designer. I think I need another copywriter. But I definitely don't need a second person in that role. I don't need another full-time person in that role. Let me see if I can find somebody for 10 to 20 hours a week that I can bring on an ongoing basis. And if we continue to scale, perhaps I'll convert them to full-time. And so that's the second bucket of talent. I would say that is probably the most popular use case of using our platform, because that 50% of talent that I mentioned has a full-time job. Like that 10 hours a week is exactly what they have to contribute to another brand. And then the third bucket is the brand that says, I know I need to hire a full-time person, but I want to hire this role contract first. And I think that use case is not executed on nearly as often as it should. And this is all about making asymmetric bets. If you're a company and you're going to go hire somebody full-time, you're making a big commitment to that person. And you have a couple conversations with them, you take them through an interview process, and then boom, you're into an employment agreement. That person is taking a big bet on you by leaving their past job or relocating themselves to enter into an employment agreement. Why don't you test them out part-time first or on a contract basis first, see if it's a mutual fit, and then convert them to full-time? It's the ultimate asymmetric bet because there's literally no downside to doing that. There's only upside for both parties. So our third bucket are brands who are hiring with that intent. And I really love when I see that happening because a lot of the time they're working with talent that wouldn't otherwise be open to a full-time job. But now they've worked with them for 10, 20, 30, 40 hours. They both love that working relationship. And then they turn it into something full-time. So that's the third big bucket of projects that people come to us for. And I would say, the middle bucket of fractional ongoing work is the largest, but we definitely see all three.
Can we break down that middle bucket? Are you saying, because you've been using the word fractional, are you seeing more? And let's define, what's your definition of fractional, and then are you saying a difference in someone who's leading the strategy, executing the teams, or because to me, when I think fractional versus freelance, fractional equals strategy, freelance equals execution. But so can we break down that middle bucket of
fractional to me just means working less than 40 hours a week. The literal definition of fractional, right? Like they're fractional, they're not full time. So anybody working less than 40 hours a week, and typically that ends up being 10 to 15, maybe 10 to 20 hours a week, whether you're an individual contributor or a fractional executive.
Gotcha. Okay. And are you seeing a difference between, is it all over the spectrum? Are you seeing that, okay, they're usually going with people 5 to 10 years of experience just to execute? How have you noticed the differences in the types of individuals that they're hiring?
If you think of a classic organizational chart where it is there are more people at the bottom, and as you go higher and higher, there are fewer and fewer people in that organization. The same exact thing applies to the demand structure for freelancers, fractional workers, starters, whatever you want to call it, right? Where most of the demand is going to be concentrated at your individual contributors. And because we're a vetted platform, we really don't have anyone with less than 3 years of experience at all. Just because there has to be a certain standard of experience to get onto the platform. But most of the work is going to go there. So think of that 3 to 7 years of experience bucket. And as you go higher and higher in terms of seniority or specialization, right? Your path, for example, as a marketer can either go from individual contributor marketer to marketing manager to director to VP to CMO, or you can just get better and better and better and more specialized in the one channel that you execute well in and just charge more for that. So as you just get higher in the rate structure and seniority, the number of engagements go down. And therefore, the supply that we have goes down because we like to pair supply and demand as much as possible as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's such a so fractional. I mean, to be honest, in the past 6 months, we've seen a boom in terms of just hearing about it. There's always been interim, right? There's always been the retired executive that has their own firm. That's always been a thing. But we've really seen in the past 6 months a supercharge to individuals that are 10 to 25 years of experience. Prior, we're building the strategy and leading the teams. And they're still doing that just in a fractional capacity. And from what we've heard, it's really been a combination of COVID and layoffs, where on one end, COVID is these individuals saying, I'm done with this, right? I'm done with going into the office, giving up my family to do this. And I can do this in a fractional capacity, meaning 2 to 3 days a week. I can literally have better outcomes doing this. But then also on the other end, companies saying, well, our budgets are getting slashed. Can we please have you on a fractional capacity? And the individual saying, well, absolutely. I can have 2 of you and make, so that's definitely what we've been seeing. Now, I really want to hit on where you think this is going, because, it's super fascinating that you come in, you establish a new model, right? And there are niche marketing marketplaces that does exist. But you come in and you say, I want to try this membership model. So I think, actually, let me ask a quick question before that. And that's just going to be from a client perspective. What are you seeing? Are you seeing more small businesses, startups? Are you seeing more large companies, enterprises, or it doesn't matter? What are you seeing from a client side?
Yeah, so most of our businesses are small to medium-sized e-commerce businesses in terms of our actual customers. We have some enterprise multi-billion-dollar clients as well, but most of our customers are on the smaller end. And it's as simple as the marketing channels that I leverage are the ones that attract smaller businesses. That's the only reason for that. I wouldn't say that as any indication on who we are best fit for or where the market is going or any of that. It's literally that I acquire customers by sharing on Twitter, sharing on LinkedIn, my building story, my journey as a bootstrap founder, my expertise within e-commerce. And those are the types of people that are very active and listening on those platforms. We don't have an enterprise sales team like an Oracle to go after those multi-billion dollar companies. So yes, they come across every once in a while, but that's not what our marketing efforts are geared towards. We don't have account-based marketing. We don't have any outbound. We don't do big sponsorships of conferences or industry events. So it's just a factor of our marketing and distribution channels more so than anything. And I expect that to evolve over time because, you said, where is this going? Number one, we're going to stay within e-commerce. We're always going to be in the e-com space. But as a membership, I want to continue to add more and more value to our ecosystem. So it started off with, hey, you can hire people on a freelance basis without any commissions or fees. Great. Then we started offering people the ability to hire full-time without any recruiting and placement fees. Great. Then we started offering free consulting calls from about 60% of our talent pool to our member base. Great. Another perk. Now we're offering software discounts. Great. Another perk. Trainings, tutorials. I just want to create an ecosystem where if you're an e-commerce founder or operator, the Starters is the place to go to tap into the global intelligence community for e-commerce. And you can do that in the most affordable, most direct way possible. So in terms of where we're going to double down on e-com, and we're going to be the talent hub in the place where if you're in the space and you want to learn or you want to hire the best, we're going to be the spot to go to.
Gotcha. So, okay, this is what I want to do, Jay. I want to give you 2 minutes, and literally, I'm just going to give you the stage, and I want you to talk with the leader that wants to be strategic about freelancers, as well as the entrepreneur that wants to help that leader be strategic. What are you telling them? The stage is totally yours.
Yeah, I would say that there are different use cases for hiring a freelancer versus an employee versus an agency. And each one of those roles and working models has their own spot within an organization. And so the question that you need to ask yourself are, number one, is the function that I'm hiring for going to be a core competency of this business in the long run? If the answer is yes, you need to automatically eliminate the agency option. You have to go either freelancer or employee, most likely employee. Then you have to ask yourself, can I afford somebody full-time even if my business comes down by 20% over the next year? If the answer is yes, then go hire somebody full-time. A full-time employee is the best way to go if something is strategic to your business and you can 100% afford that person even if things go wrong. If the answer is no to that, then you want to start by hiring fractional and then hopefully convert that person over the long term. If a function isn't strategic to your business over the long term, for example, if you are a heavy R&D, deep technology company, maybe SEO isn't a strategic arm of that business. Then you eliminate full-time employees. You don't want to hire full-time employees for something that isn't particularly strategic. It takes your focus, takes your eye off the ball. Then you're going to look at freelancers or agencies. And then the question becomes, do I want to optimize for bottom line? And am I okay doing a little bit more work in management to optimize for the bottom line? If the answer to that question is yes, you have to hire a freelancer. If the answer to that question is no, then you're going to go to the agency route. What I'd say is, based on what you need, based on what you can afford, and based on how strategic a function is to your business, you'll know whether you need to go an agency, freelancer, or employee route. And if you choose to go to the freelancer route, you can look at your options there as well. Mass freelancer marketplaces that we talked about, where you could be sacrificing on quality of talent. A place like the Starters, where yes, you have to pay $295 a month as a membership, but you get access to the best talent. Maybe you're too early stage for that. Or maybe you want to go to a staffing agency where you're paying a lot more, but you're getting a complete white glove service. You're getting introduced to one person, you're hiring that person. And so based on where you are as a stage of the business, you can also look within the freelancer market and understand where you should be hiring from. So as I talk to any entrepreneur and any leader, I'm of course biased to be like, hey, you should hire from us. But ultimately, I want it to be the right fit. I want to be the right thing for their business in terms of, is hiring a freelancer the right option? And if it is, like, what are they looking to optimize for? And I would argue that most businesses want the best combination of quality and affordability. And if that's the case for your business, the starters is the place to hire. If it isn't, there are other options available. So those are the conversations that I typically have with leaders and entrepreneurs, and kind of the decision-making tree that I walk them through when they're kind of unsure of what they want to hire or what route they want to go in.
That's awesome. You gave me a nice little visual that I can now that we can use. Maybe we'll draw it up after the show.
Love that.
Listen, Jay. So I got two very, very probably the most important two questions of the whole episode, and they're going to be nice and quick. The first question is going to be, where can our listeners find you? And the second question, by far the most important one, is going to be favorite animal and why.
Ooh. So customers can find me on, or listeners can find us on Twitter and LinkedIn, just under my personal profile, Jay Dolwani, Jai is how I spell my first name. And my favorite animal is probably a koala. I went to Australia as a kid, and I just freaking love those things. They're like so cute and so fun. So I'd have to say the koala is my favorite animal.
You're the first, and your dog is probably very sad right now, but you are definitely the first one to say koala. Listen, Jay, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thank you for having me.